If you came out as gay because of Adastra, you're weak. What a horrible thought, right? Like, just weird, dark thought, irresponsible thought to put into the world. I don't know, like, what the goal is there, like how you expect bystanders to react to that. What's the point? Just what's the point? I know the point to an extent, but we'll get to that. Just weird. Furries are weird. Furry drama is weird. Twitter is a dark, dark place, and we'll get to all of it, I guess. But I want to talk about a particular topic that I've just like been uniquely exposed to because of what I've done as far as like the videos I've made and the sort of place I've had in fandom. It's led to me interacting with a particular sub community of people that I didn't ask to interact with, but kind of keeps happening at me, and just the weird forms this has taken. So like 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, yeah, I made a video essay about Adastra that's like 3 hours long, and it's titled Adastra made me the best visual novel made me come out as gay, and now you have to all hear about it, or something like that. Like, it's just a big rambly weird title. It follows much like the queer reading of Beastars one, it follows a particular format of titles that just kind of is around on YouTube, where you kind of just like imply that you're going to be like neurodivergently sharing about this thing that you're really fixated on, essentially. So that all made sense. There were some sub quirks of it. Like, it was funny that the maximum text duration for a title on some formats, on some pages, would cut it off sometimes. So it'd be like, the best furry visual novel made me come, it made me come, ... It would just stop right there. I'm like, oops. It has the title that has the thumbnail. It's like, there will be tears, and has big evocative amicus face. Some people are annoyed that it's a spoiler, but I say it's not a spoiler. Things that you can recognize as being a big moment of the game later, having already played it, is not a spoiler, just because when somebody sees it on its own, they can't draw from that what the thing is that's happening. So it's not a spoiler. The only thing that's spoiling is that sad thing happens, which is everything, basically, just because like almost every, there's probably like slice of life anime that never result in ugly crying, but a huge percentage of stories end up with somebody crying at some point, and that's all that the thumbnail really reveals. But it's like, the point was just to be like, big emotion, because, you know, that's what YouTube responds to. YouTube audiences, you need to convince them to click on you out of an ocean of things. And so my best video essays, my most successful video essays, the Beastars and Adastra ones, are both furry face, big, recognizable, cartoonish, colorful, high contrast imagery, and some kind of evocative expression going on. Louis's mouth and Louis's hand in Legoshi's mouth, or big crying amicus. And those are just like big emotional images to draw people in, because that's what you do on YouTube, is you need to imply some level of intensity that implies that this thing's gonna be worth people's time. And given the viewership on both those videos, I was right. In both cases, I perfectly crafted a title and thumbnail, because the results speak for themselves of the biggest things I've made, and I've been making titles and thumbnails every day since 2011, basically. So those are the biggest ones ever. So I'm correct about those titles and thumbnails for the format and the medium. That's me being a YouTuber correctly, essentially, which is weird to think about. It's weird to think about like that kind of level of craft or whatever, but that's what the whole thing is. As far as the specific image I used, that was because that was the exact image that made me say, okay, I've got to play Adastra. I just saw this fan art that was so evocative of an emotion, and I just wanted to know the context for that. So I played the game because of that fan art, and so since it worked on me, I thought it would work on other people. Yeah, it worked on other people, ultimately. But that's a very particular part of those two videos are a duology of sorts. They're my coming out, my 6 hour furry gay coming out duology thing, which is a weird mixed thing where some people go back and forth on the two of them, on what they think they mean, because they forget what I said, because I was clear about it. I came out in the Beastars video, but in the Beastars video, even in the Beastars video, I say I came out because of Adastra. So I didn't like change the story later or anything. It's right there in the script the whole time. It's just that I happened to come out in the Beastars video because I read Adastra while I was already working on the Beastars video and had been for months. Once again, don't know how I thought I was going to make that video while not out as gay. I don't know I really don't know what I was thinking about working on that video at the time, but that's what I was doing at the time. So I then came out as gay locally, finished the Beastars video, came out to my audience in the Beastars video, and then did the Adastra video next, knowing I was going to play the Adastra video, do the Adastra video next, because that's the note I ended on in the Beastars video, and finish that context. And whatever was there, I didn't have a plan for it yet, what I was going to say, but it was meaningful enough to me that surely I was going to be able to find stuff to say. So I did. And I continued my story, and I continued my reading of these things in a similar way, doing the sort of queer reading stuff or talking about queer subtext, and also just relating it to a lot of some queer history, some my experience, and sort of evocative stuff in that space, the panopticon and so on, which is now kind of a meme in leftist video essays because of how much it comes up and so on, but it meant something to me at the time, so I brought it up there. And that video really resonated with people. The Beastars video is more successful, but I think people cite the Adastra video more frequently as being directly important to them, to the point where people say that, oh yeah, I'm at this convention because of you, or I'm a furry because of you, or I came out as gay because of you, or like started being open about being a furry and went to start going to conventions and doing things more openly instead of lurking because of you, and so on. And that's great. That's positively affecting the world and positively affecting people is like the best thing a YouTuber can really do, because it's kind of a throwaway slop platform full of low effort content that I've contributed to also. And this is like my place where I'm trying to really make something that resonates with people. And since it's my specific story about a big choice in my life, like that's the goal. I'm not a saint. I'm not perfect. I'm not important or anything, but like I'm trying to relay my lived experience as a queer person and hope that that makes people feel less alone, and that helps them find their way in some way, in the way that I can, because I can't handle a lot of one-on-one with people. I can't do like fan therapy and stuff. When people try to contact me one-on-one, if I don't know who they are, I don't really want to talk to them. I get anxious and don't know how to handle it. I'm not very extroverted. This is this context where I can talk to people, as I can make a big video that tries to go in on this stuff and then hope that my experiences mean something to people, and then move on to the next project, and that thing can live there as art in the form that it is, because video essays and all YouTube stuff is some kind of form of art in different genres and contexts and so on. That's what this is. And it did resonate with people, and in particular, much to the enjoyment and annoyance of the Echo project fan community. My Adastra video clearly led to a whole bunch of new people adopting Adastra and then going in and playing Echo. And then you get to have your little character arc where you're like, oh, well, I played Echo next. And actually Echo it deals with darker themes, and it's way more interesting and so on. I say that like rolling my eyes sarcastically, but it's also like a sincere experience. And even I kind of agree. Like, I like Echo a lot. I call Adastra the best video essay, the best visual novel in the title, because one, take it all to 11. It's a YouTube video. You gotta get people to click on the video. Then you can be nuanced in your script. But the title and thumbnail do not have room for nuance. You need loud take. That's the whole point. That's me doing the format. I don't actually think Adastra has to be the best furry visual novel. There is a little credence to it in that best can be a little bit of a call to popularity, because Adastra does eclipse every other furry visual novel as far in like audience, including Echo and so on. Echo's up there, a bunch of other visual novels are up there, but there's a big gap between all of the other popular visual novels and Adastra all the way up here. There's like a cloud of them all clustered here, and then Adastra's on a different planet compared to everything else. And we have the data to show it because of FVN fvn.li, it pretty much tracks like, yeah, Adastra is extremely popular. So there's a few different vectors to call it the best, but that's not the point of the video. The title of the video is rarely the point of the video for most videos, because that's just how, that's the game you have to play on YouTube. But if you think that Echo is better, cool, that's fine. I'm not even going to argue with you. But a lot of people had that exact arc in the next couple of months right after my video, playing Adastra, playing Echo, then maybe getting into the wider visual novels, or they bounce off Adastra and say it's overrated and this guy's glazing it, blah blah blah. It's all the usual stuff when you make a video about a thing. But it's now been 3 years since that came out, so people have had character arcs with that video. You might think like 3 years, that's not a long time. You don't really change as a person that much in 3 years, right? We don't. If you're one of my peers as a mid-30s person, you know who does change a lot in 3 years? Teenagers. And that's what this video is about. Minors who play Adastra, an observed phenomenon that no one knows what to do with. Everyone's a bit uncomfortable. It's not... I'll get into like how it's not necessarily massively wrong, but it's happening wrong, and it's been frustrating for everyone involved, and it's partially the minors' fault, but also not, because the minors in this case are growing up on a different internet than we grew up on before, because minors were always around, but minors used to know when they were interacting with adult spaces not to. Not because they weren't looking, but because they knew they weren't supposed to be looking and they weren't supposed to be talking about it. So it was more discreet, because I guess I'll get into that first of all. It's like, let's get into the idea of minors interacting with adult content online. Everyone does it. I mean, everyone, statistically. A fuck off huge number of people do it when they're minors. No one really cares, if we're going to be completely honest. This is like taboo to talk about in society, but we know that people who are in their mid to late teens interact with adult content offline and online when they're not supposed to. Everyone knows that. There's not really like a way to regulate it correctly or like clear lines to draw. All of society is very uncomfortable with the boundary between adulthood and non-adulthood and so on. And so we have certain laws in very specific contexts for some of this stuff, and sometimes that gets conflated with being the overall morality of everything, and that's not actually the case. And I've talked to a lot of parents about this stuff to confirm this like thought process here, because like it's just, this is true. I think about how like I used to listen to the Rooster Teeth podcast, and like a decade ago they used to all joke about forest porn, which is that they all grew up in like Texas, and they would like, as kids, just go exploring, and they'd go into the woods, and they'd find like a nude magazine just sitting in the woods somewhere, like someone's stash or discarded thing. And it was like a joke that all of them had the same story of encountering forest porn, but like not the same one. Like they had all interacted with, they had separately encountered this phenomenon in their life as Texans growing up in like, I don't know, the 80s or 90s or whatever. And like that's pre-internet. That's just a different context entirely. But it is a story of them being teenagers engaging with adult content, and they don't feel ashamed to admit that they engage with adult content as teenagers. And also they're telling it on a public podcast that probably has like 1 million views, and the audience of that podcast isn't like, oh, we have to cancel Bernie Burns, he talked about the forest porn he saw when he was 14 or 16 or whatever age he was, because everyone knows that. Like everyone knows that. Like I grew up watching the movie Sandlot a lot, and there's a part where the fat kid is just way too into like the cheerleader, and it's like shot like to emphasize that he's horny about this teenager, and he's a kid. He felt, it's hard to judge the age of this kid because I was a kid when I watched it, so he seemed older than me. So to me, he seemed like an older teenager. But I think I look back now, he's probably like 12, like a tiny kid, and he's horny for this teenager. It's good. Like people go through puberty as teenagers, and you know, they get the talk, and they're going to start feeling things about genders, theirs or the other one. Their body changes are going to happen, and they're going to be a hormonal mess, and they're going to want context and answers for this stuff, and they're going to find it in sloppy, messy ways. And now that the internet exists, you just have to type like sex or porn or any list of body parts you want, and as you grow a vocabulary, sex acts and whatnot, you just type that into the internet, and you're like, there it is. No one can stop anyone. Like, it's just, there's no barrier there. It's why I think that's kind of silly when people, like, everyone should mark their stuff as being adult, but I don't think that, like, sometimes people like feel like they're like, it's like they have a personal responsibility not to expose any minors to adult content. I'm like, the minors already know about the adult content, and they just have to type 2 words into Google, and they're there, and no one can stop them. And that, no one can stop them. The problem here isn't that minors engage with adult content, because that's in some levels like educational a little bit. It's like, it's whatever. Like this, I know this is messy to talk about, but everyone already knows this. Everyone already knows that minors engage with adult content. The problem is that they're not shutting the fuck up. They're supposed to shut up. They're supposed to not talk to people about it. There's not like, they can talk to parents about it. That's the safe thing. Obviously, that's not on the table for a lot of queer people, unfortunately, and that's messy in its own way. But minors are not supposed to be engaging in online communities about adult content. That's the barrier. That's the taboo. When everyone says, this is an 18+ area, stay out, minors, don't interact with me, they're not doing that to exclude minors, which I've talked about this before, and minors act like we're hating on them and we're bullying minors and stuff. I'm like, no, the idea is you're supposed to stay over there quietly, and whatever you're getting up to that you're not supposed to be getting up to, shut the fuck up about it. Shut up. Go away. You're not supposed to go into the Discord with all the adult artists and talk with them and endanger them because they're legally in a dangerous spot because you're a minor in an NSFW context engaging with these people, and you can get them in trouble for interacting with minors in this context. So everyone's like, what the fuck, get away from me. And people are extra super duper mega ultra vigilant about that because they're queer people, and so they're already accused of being predators around minors, and you're coming at them without their consent when they aren't trying to interact with minors, and making them feel in danger right now. So go away. That's the conflict. This is the argument that people have 100 times on Twitter, but no one can actually get anywhere with it because they can't fit it in tweets. Is that people act like you're being anti-minor. I'm like, no, you need to go away for your own safety and ours. No, you're going to get people accused of being predators. You're going to get people, and also, in the case of actual predators, you're putting yourself in danger. Do not go anywhere and say who you are and what your age is as a minor. Do not identify yourself. Get out of these communities. Do not talk to people as a minor in these communities. Go away. Wait until you're older. You need to go away. No one can stop you from playing Adastra or whatever, and I don't even know if it's actually bad for you to play Adastra in isolation, or even to talk to your parents about it if they're cool with queer stuff, but you need to not interact with adult communities about adult stuff because you're putting both them and yourself in danger in several ways. You're gonna get this shit legislated. You're gonna give people the excuse to go after queer people more. You're going to potentially put people in uncomfortable situations. You're going to put yourself in danger to be preyed on because who knows what the fuck you're dealing with. You're too young to navigate this stuff because you're a minor. You need to go away. That's the real conversation that gets lost in this giant mess all the time. And society is completely uncomfortable about discussing this topic, which is why we just say 18+. And then just act like that's like the magic rule for all of adulthood. Like, as if people just magically become adults the moment they turn 18 and weren't adults at all the day before they were 18 and never had a sexual thought in their entire life and never looked into any of the stuff ever. Like, we know that's not the case. Everyone knows that's not the case. But that's what the 18+ stuff acts like. And also, I'm not arguing against the 18 plus stuff. That line exists for a reason. In particular, it's based around primarily the age of consent sexually between adults and so on. It's just like, hey, that's the cutoff. Just stay away from anyone below 18. We're not going to unpack this fucking mess. No one is prepared to unpack this fucking mess. There's so many complexities to deal with here, and we know that like people don't magically become adults the exact day they're 18. Some people still kind of aren't adults when they're 22, and some people I'm not even gonna get to touch that because it's like, yeah, people might mature earlier, but if I even try to talk about that, it makes you sound like a psycho libertarian that's trying to lower the age of consent, and that's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that it's messy. The whole thing is messy, and it's not as clear as the idea of a magic 18-year-old's birthday being this perfect transition where you become a different person all of a sudden. So we have that law as a catch-all to be like, just fucking stay out. Just don't touch. Hard cutoff right here. It's the best we can do. Because no one has answers for this. Everyone's infinitely complicated. And it's also like everything sexual is something that nobody wants to talk about and is completely uncomfortable with as a society, which is a wider problem we have with all of sexual stuff as far as like being incapable of talking about it. Which is why we're so unequipped to have this conversation in general, and why we have a very rudimentary cutoff rule where that's just like the best we're gonna get, apparently. And so that gets conflated with every element of sexuality, because obviously you don't want adults and minors interacting sexually, obviously. But then it comes like, well, what about art? What about lessons? When is it appropriate for schools to teach people about sex, for example? When should sex ed happen? Some people argue never, especially conservative Christian types. And it's like, well, that's obviously wrong. At some point, you're going to have to be the teacher who is showing a classroom of students a diagram of a penis, and you're telling them what a condom is, because like at some point, this conversation happens. And at some point you have this like thing where you just talk to your parents and you figure out at what point can you watch certain age ratings of movies where it's like, this isn't porn, it's just like aware that adult stuff exists, and it's like people have sex in this movie, but like ambiguously or not ambiguously, non-gratuitously, and so on. Yeah, my throat. So it's like there's a lot of stuff here that no one knows how to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't have the answers. It's not my responsibility to unpack this giant mess. But minors misunderstand this conversation online because they're like being told to go away, and they feel almost like they're prejudiced against. And it's like, no, that's not exactly what's going on. It's just you control your own behavior and need to respect boundaries. And these boundaries exist for a reason, whether they feel fair or not, because you are not 18 yet. Respect people's boundaries. Please respect people's boundaries. That's the gist of the conversation when it comes to this adult content. That's the mess with minors playing Adastra. But we know that minors play Adastra because they won't shut up about it. They're all over TikTok and Twitter, and they're clearly obviously underage, and they're posting these constant like animated things of like Mish comics and Adastra, and these montages of Amicus and set to like K-pop or whatever with transitions and things. And like I think about like how we had somebody who kept doing these like motion tweening animations of fan art of Echo and Adastra, and they were in my Discord, and I'm like, you need to stop making these. You have already identified yourself as a 16-year-old. This game is 18 plus. You have to stop making fan art of this game. And you especially need to leave if you're going to keep doing that. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. And I see them post another one. I'm like, okay, I'm banning you from our Discord. You need to leave. I can't change your behavior, but you're not respecting boundaries for these spaces. You're not respecting the boundaries of the furry community in its 18 plus space. You're not respecting the boundaries of the creators of Adastra and Echo, who labeled the game as 18 plus. you're openly identifying yourself as a minor while making content about this stuff in public. You need to stop, but if nothing else, you need, at the very least, you need to leave. You're not allowed here anymore because you won't respect these boundaries, and all spaces tied to this stuff kind of just need to systematically ban you one by one because you're not respecting these boundaries and you're endangering the people around you and yourself, and no one can make you stop doing that. So they're just going to have to keep banning you if they notice this thing about them. And I've noticed that, like, if you go to like furry influencer streamers discords like Monty Wolf and so on, they have rules. You cannot say your age, period, in the entire Discord. And it's like, oh, I wonder what group of people they're saying you can't say your age because I don't think they're worried that a 26-year-old is going to find out that somebody else is 35. That's not the conversation. These Discords are banning people from saying their ages at all because a specific sub-community of people just keeps interacting with spaces and interacting with adults, and there's no solutions for this stuff. No one knows what to do about this. And so I've come under fire before because I once said that I don't really think that minors should be online. Like, it's not really safe for them on the internet. And that was conflated with me being like, I'm anti-minor and I gotta get rid of minors. And I'm like, no. I'm pointing out that the internet as it exists does not care about the safety of minors. Not in a practical sense. There is not any segregation of spaces, really. There just isn't really any kind of way, and I don't know the solutions for this. There just aren't really ways to verify somebody's age as a third party in like the sign up process of going on the internet, and then like put that person in like the place where they only interact with other minors. Because like, if the internet was a place where you could freely get all this information and watch YouTube videos and so on, but then from a community level could only interact with like each other and your parents and teachers or something, then that would probably be okay. Maybe, I don't know. But the fact that if you're given a smartphone as a 14-year-old and you can just go anywhere immediately, that's obviously not like a great solution. And my solution for this growing up was that it didn't exist yet, basically. Smartphones basically didn't exist. They basically came out in like 2005 or 6 or something like that, when I was already 15, 16. And I didn't have a smartphone all the way until late college. Didn't have to navigate this, didn't have to grow up in this space. So like I had my own like arc of like discovering furry and so on, and Fur Affinity and other websites, and coming of age. And if I did look at anything adult, I knew that I wasn't supposed to, so I wasn't bringing that up in any context. But also, like, all of social media didn't exist in the form that it does right now, where it's so algorithmic based and everyone's on the same place, and it's all about takes and explosions of emotion and controversies and all this like big moments all the time where people are being canceled and all these other big things. That just wasn't really the space back then, because the algorithms that drive it didn't exist yet. So they're mostly just chronological feeds. They were like old school blogs, essentially. They were RSS feeds. They were just boring chronological stuff you looked at for a little bit, engaged a few people, moved on. And a lot of us didn't have smartphones yet for the entire time that I was, practically until I was like 25. So just didn't have to deal with this barrier. And I look at the way that it's turned into now, and I'm like, this is just dangerous for a subsection of the internet. And we know that, but we don't do anything about that. There was a YouTube scandal, Adpocalypse, which is when we found out that YouTube was aware that minors were using the platform and was just ignoring the fact that it's illegal to advertise to minors with directed advertising. And they were just doing it anyway. And when they got basically sued over that or whatever happened, like, they had to revamp all of it, and they had to figure out how to like suppress algorithmically stuff tied to kids. And in particular, anyone who makes content that's for kids on YouTube has their advertising turned off, and all of their comment sections are turned off. And that's like that's their solution, is just like, we can't identify, even if we can't identify kids, we're like, this is content that's made for kids, so we're deleting all community features on it. So iPad babies can passively watch this stuff on their iPad on the YouTube Kids app, but they cannot comment on it and they cannot interact with people there because that's dangerous. So it's like, that's YouTube kind of approaching some kind of version of a solution, kind of. It's really messy though, right? Like it's really fucking complicated. No one knows what to do with it. But that's the mess with minors and Adastra and Echo and so on. So I made a video about Adastra, and obviously, because it's on the internet, even though the video itself is designed to be safe, I only talk about sexual stuff in a chaste-ish context about just like the neutral facts about sex, basically. And I do say that the game is 18 plus and that you only should play it if you're 18 plus. Like, I do my due diligence of placing that boundary, and if people are violating that boundary, I can't do much about that, really. But it did lead to an influx of people playing those games in general, and some of those people were inevitably minors because minors are doing that, and we all know that they do that. But when I talk about people having a character arc with my video essay, I keep mixing up those two terms. Wild. It's now been 3 years, and for some people, that's literally like beginning of high school to end of high school. Like, I remember high school. It was a fucking eternity. Not, partly because high schoolers are cruel, and also because when you're 14 to 18 or whatever, 15 to 18 and stuff, 4 years is an eternity of your life so far. It's such a huge percentage of the life you've had so far that you're like, I remember specifically finishing high school and being like, I have to go to college for 4 years now. I have to start over at this whole 4-year thing and do it again now, basically. And I went to college for 5.5 years before I got my degree. It was longer, but it felt shorter. Like, that's just how it goes. And part of it's because I wasn't having such a big character arc, and still growing physically as a person and going through so many complicated, weird times. It's hard to be a high schooler in a lot of ways, and I get that. I was there. Do not want to go back. Part of the frustration with dealing with high schoolers online is like, I don't want to go back to high school. People were cruel back then, and a lot of you guys are cruel because you're in high school. Don't want to talk to you. But what happened is that, this happens to all high schoolers, is that we fear the cringe. We fear the cringe within ourselves, and as you're growing, you're constantly afraid of this older version of yourself that is very unhappy. This older version of yourself that was like, didn't get it as much. They did embarrassing things back then. Not like you, who is now older and smarter. That person, super embarrassing. The truth is that ever stops. Your whole life, the older version of you is always making mistakes and is always kind of embarrassing. But you feel it potently when you're coming into early adulthood, because you are, for the first time, really getting conscious of society around you, and you're standing in it and trying to find your identity. You might, like, become a goth or an emo or whatever the fuck identities exist now, if they even are around anymore, or a fucking brony and so on. You adopt a particular, like, identity, so in a lot of these cases furry and whatnot, or other sub-communities, and you try to find your place, and you try to find stability and belonging, and in doing so, you want to kill the past self. There's a version of you from 2 or 3 years ago that you hate because they're embarrassing, and you don't want people to ever learn about that version of you, because then that would shake your social standing and what you think you've found now. What you found now isn't actually that stable or permanent, and you're going to probably wear it like a costume for a few years, then discard a lot of it and realize that a lot of that wasn't you either. But you're trying to commit to this current version of you and trying to make yourself. So this vast version of yourself you hate, and you're trying to get rid of that person. And that past version really emotionally resonated with that Adastra video essay you watched with the crying amicus in the thumbnail. This is what I'm getting at. There's a sub-community of people who, frankly, hate me, and they hate my video, and they want to kill that video. And it's because they don't want to admit that they cared about it. And that's the only reason they'd be talking about it right now, is because they cared about it. Because it is a semi-successful, but not that successful, queer video essay from 3 years ago, which is dead in YouTube years. Like, no one remembers it. Like, there has been a billion videos that have millions of views since then. There are so many creators that pump out a massive video every week that eclipses that entire video in views. It is a small, resonant moment for a lot of people that is past its period. There's no reason to be talking about it right now, except that you do care about it on some level because you think about it all the time. Like, if you're thinking about my content still that I didn't make this year, first of all, deeply flattering, but you have to admit, it's because it did something for you on some emotional level at some point. It mattered as art, and that's why in a torrent of infinite slop, you still remember that one specifically and are still talking about it as a community and so on. Good or bad, but it's there, and that's fine. But yeah, like these high schoolers, what I've seen as this arc is that, and in some cases, because you can just look at somebody's profile, you can just scroll down. People just tell on themselves because people willingly put all their thoughts on the internet all the time. You can see people's mind change over time. So I've looked at somebody's Twitter before and been like, okay, this person that's trashing the Adastra video essay years after it came out, it's weird amount of commitment. But you can just scroll down and just see when they used to say nice things about it, like a year or two ago. And it's like, oh. So they either did the thing where they hear other people's opinions about something and then they like, oh, I like that thing, but other people are saying bad thing about it, and I want to sound smart and cool to my friends, so I'm going to hate the thing too now. Like, it's not deep. Everyone knows about this quirk of high schoolers in particular, because everyone lived through it, and whenever a high schooler does this, we just watch it happen, and we're like, oh yeah, they're doing that thing where they're like trying to reject, like, no mom, I don't like Barbie anymore, Barbie's stupid and I'm a grown-up now. It's like that kind of vibe you get from like an 8-year-old. That kind of repeats every couple of years throughout the entirety of adolescence and high school and so on. I know one dad in particular that's probably going to be very amused by this part of this video, because it's like he knows exactly what I'm talking about with his kids and so on. It's just how it goes. And just teenagers and kids are not subtle because they kind of don't really know how readable they are yet. So when they do these behavior patterns, everyone around them that's older just sees it happen. Like, oh, there they go. Yep, I remember that. Because it's just that intuitive and consistent and normal to act this way. And I've seen that. So I can see this play out on people's Twitter accounts where they have this arc of like it being important to them being like part of the hate squad and so on, to having to crush it. And it's there's a sincerity to arc. It's like a reverse bell curve. That's not really how a bell curve works. Bell curves aren't over time, but there's like a dip in sincerity when you're a teenager, because when you're a kid, you're only sincere. You don't know how to do anything else. And then as a teenager, everything has to be, you're worried about being cool. So nothing can be sincere, and you cringe at sincerity. And then as you're getting older, you kind of have your next character arc where you grow out of that and you live for sincerity. And that's where all the furries are. And that's the kill the cringe within you part of furries, is trying to live your best life and be sincere. But high schooler furries really struggle with that, and they struggle with being furry in general, and they try to judge furries, and they try to talk, this is why people think furries look bad. You guys being furries look bad. And then it's like, it's just normal adults having a kink, basically. It's like, you, one, shouldn't be talking about that kink because you're underage, but also you just aren't fully mature enough to deal with being a furry yet, because you're also trying to kill that. You're trying to not be cringe, but furries are cringe, and that's the beauty of it. You have to be cringe because that's the sincerity, and you have to live in that and embrace that duality. You're not ready for that yet. But you will be. But that reaction to that video, it's like, I made a video that was very sincere and vulnerable and open about a lot of things. I put myself out there and gave people ammo to hurt me. And then some of them did. A lot of the people that tried to hurt me are homophobes, obviously, and conservatives and anti-furries and people who suck in general. But the unexpected part of it, what I didn't anticipate going in, was that furries would try to hurt me. And that furries would take this moment of sincerity within their own fandom about queerness, and then try to hurt me, not just for being open and sincere, but also try to hurt me through the vector of queerness. That's weird and cruel. But I can increasingly explain what's going on because I've seen it happen so much now, and because, once again, high schoolers aren't that subtle. You could just tell where they are in their emotional arc in real time because everyone knows what this part of being a teenager is, and they're just not that clever yet. You can just tell what they're doing. I'm sorry if you're a high schooler watching this. I hope you learned something. Don't feel too attacked. It's just, this is normal, but also if you could hurry along your character arc and be less toxic online to other furries and queer people, that'd be nice too. Because you're going to regret a lot of the stuff you're doing right now, and we know that. Everyone knows that because we lived it. It's just a really predictable pattern. So there becomes this part where it's like you got to destroy this thing that is the symbol of your cringe past, the part of you that liked this crying amicus thumbnail YouTube video that you fixate on years later for some reason, but it can't be because it's good or compelling or anything. It's because you hate it. Yeah. Because famously, bad art sticks with you forever, and you don't just forget about it because it's bad art. So these people would think about this stuff forever, and they have to defeat it in some way. And this takes a number of different forms. People started editing the thumbnail and having it be like a meme parody of the thumbnail. They like would rewrite the text and like, there won't be tears, or there will be beers or bears, or I don't know, like little minor puns here and there, or some kind of like overwritten joke. They draw over Amicus and he's smiling now and stuff like that. And then people send me every single one of those because it's me being referenced. I'm like, I don't need to see all these. I think you think that this is a silly joke, but all the replies are just people being really mean to me. So I didn't actually need to see this. Stop sharing this with me. But I've seen it. But I've seen it now. So I've seen the fallout, and I've seen the responses and so on. But it's a bunch of people needing to like memeify or strip the sincerity from the thing that they liked once because they're older now and they're smarter and they're not sincere because that's stupid and they're not cringe anymore. So they have to defeat and defang the thing that they emotionally resonated with once by memeifying it and stripping it of context and ruining it essentially in some way. Like they're going on and they're drawing a stupid face on it with Sharpie, like you do in a Polaroid back in the day to make fun of it. And that's not the end of the world either, but it keeps intensifying, and you have these like sort of like anti-fandoms that generated where you have people that clearly interact on the basis of hating me, and they do it from the starting point of this, and then they try to justify it. So that's when you get to cancel culture. Fun. And it's people that want to make me a controversial figure who did a bad, and so that they can feel comfortable in getting rid of me and saying that my stuff is bad. Because they could just not like the thing I make. But weirdly, in the social media era, people don't do that anymore. They don't just like not like art on its own and be like, nah, that's it. I don't like it. A lot of us have had the phenomenon of saying we don't like something, or like this creator or someone, or this art like musician, and then somebody else responding, oh no, what did they do? And you're like, what do you mean, what did they do? I don't care what they did. I don't like the stuff they make because they're an art. I'm talking about their art. That's the default, right? When you talk about an artist, by default you're talking about their art, right? Like when someone says they don't like Nickelback, I don't expect to find a sex scandal starring Chad Kroeger when I look up Nickelback. I think they probably just didn't like their album. Because that's also just out of myself as knowing the lead singer of Nickelback's name. I had so many of their albums once upon a time. But weirdly, it became about the artists themselves. And it's valid to hate, like, J.K. Rowling, because she's genuinely making it a point to be a real shitbag all the time as a person. And so that makes sense to be like, I hate J.K. Rowling. But most people are like, I don't know, who do people watch now? I was gonna say Wiz Khalifa, and I'm like, Wiz Khalifa was when I was in fucking at best by a decade ago. That's not Chapel Roan. I think Chapel Roan actually does have political controversies. Who cares? Insert uncontroversial artist example that just makes art, and people are like, I don't like them. They'd be like, people would weirdly think you meant the person more often than not, and that's strange. So instead of just being able to say you don't like me and because of my stuff, people want to justify it in some way and make me a bad. And it's like, sure, I've probably had a controversial opinion at some point or a bad tweet, but like I just don't really have scandals. So people have gone through to surprising lengths to try to create scandals. In particular, there's this one guy that I recognized that like would just tweet about me weekly all the time, just constant hate tweeting, just trying to like make things about me continuously. And in particular, a struggle with the furry fandom is that we're growing, but we're kind of a tight-knit community of people constantly knowing each other. So if you name 3 furries out loud in public, you're gonna get in trouble because like one of them probably like had a bad tweet once, or like made art that was like towing the line and some people find controversial or questionable and so on, or maybe they even did something bad, maybe not like fully criminal but like shitty or something, or they are rude, or they responded poorly to a different controversy or something. And like people have this amazing memory for controversies, so there's so much shit that is on your permanent record as a furry if you ever touch anything. Like there was a controversy about like tracing and whatnot and AI, well, a few months ago, and one of the people that was going to like step into the controversy was talking to me about it and showing the evidence and everything. And I'm like, I get it. Are you sure you want to talk about this? Because I know you think that you're in the right here for pointing this out, but it's going to become a you problem. And you are going to be, this is going to go on your permanent record. You know that, right? This controversy is going to be attached to you forever now in some people's minds because you're bringing up this thing and you're like going to be seen as attacking this person for this thing. And it's going to be seen as like it's going to, it blows back and forth both ways. And lo and behold, they did bring it up and add to a controversy. And when I was up next for a convention and I brought them up, people had negative opinions of this person now because of the thing that was exactly what I warned them. I'm like, it's just not a good idea to have takes online, to do anything online, because beyond just living your life and having and making some safe art, if you do stuff like this, people are going to remember forever. And so far they do. That kind of stuff happens a lot. It's just very difficult to navigate. No one knows how to do it. No one knows what the answers are, and there's also like not a clear sense of like the intensity of offenses and why we should be mad at people when, and so on, and what, and like, so the result instead is to just like be mad at people forever, essentially. So there's like within certain communities, certain lists of people get gossiped about, and people are just mad about them indefinitely, essentially. And like there are, and to be clear, there are like I don't want to do call outs, so I don't name people and I don't engage with this stuff. But there are individuals that did do fucked up things, and then there are other people that just kind of got mixed up in messy shit, and they just get to deal with that forever now. And there's no like delineation of intensity for that stuff. It's all really messy and weird. So like what I've noticed though is that people will come after me for associating with people, and I will get sort of canceled for somebody else, like on their behalf, to the point where sometimes on like the Echo Discord or other Discords and and different like sub communities of furry that I share space with, I'll see people talking about me in hushed tones like, oh no, don't you know what he did? And I'm like, okay, let's see what it is. Let's just watch, see this conversation play out, because I can just see these two. These are all in public. And then it'll inevitably just become about like how I associate with this person, or I am a someone defender, or I glaze this person. And I'm like, when have I ever publicly defended anyone over a controversy on any platform? Like, show me where I did that. And no, I didn't really, because I don't want to get involved with these messy, weird things. So it just doesn't really come up. It's not really, doesn't really happen. But I noticed that I keep getting in trouble on behalf of this or that furry artist, or this or that writer, or this or that creator, and so on, that has any kind of thing, to the point where some of these people are more mad at me for defending this figure than they're mad at the figure for the thing that they think that that person did wrong. And I'm like, that is interesting, because it reveals two things. One, you're more invested in being mad at me than you are over the supposed moral thing that you think is bad, which isn't that uncommon. A lot of people are more invested in having a reason to be mad at a certain creator than they are actually invested in the supposed transgression in the first place, which is why it becomes bad for you to be the person. But I lost that thought a little bit. People are often more invested in the person they have an excuse to be mad at than they are in the supposed transgression, the crime. So they're using social justice language, or using the idea that someone was wronged as an excuse to essentially dogpile people online and bully people and so on. Like, the harassment is the point. They're looking for a valid target or a valid excuse. It's one of the worst memes I've ever seen, is that there's this one meme of a black guy going, and he's like, and it's like, finally a valid excuse to hate this person that I already hated, or whatever. And it's like, that's used against creators all the time. And it's like, that's a really weird, shitty meme, because it's like, why can't you just not like somebody? And then that be the whole story. Why do you need an excuse to hate them? And also, like, have you not thought through the fact that needing an excuse to hate them means you need something bad to happen? You need that creator, who otherwise just did nothing wrong, you need them to turn out to have done something wrong, which means that there's a victim now. That means you're wishing for harm to exist in the world. You want someone else to be harmed so that the creator that you have a petty grievance with will now be a valid target for you to hate. Instead of just not liking their stuff like a normal, healthy person, you want someone to be sexually assaulted or something like that, so you can then be like, oh, finally, I have a reason to hate Neil Gaiman. You're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Just don't like him already. And because you don't like his art, and then move on. Don't wish this evil into the world and be like, oh, I sure hope that he's got skeletons in the closet, so I have a reason to hate them. What the fuck? I hate that meme. I hate that meme so much because it represents such a darkness. It's so gross as a concept to want cruelty and darkness to happen in the world just so you can have an excuse to not like the person you already don't like. Your excuse is that you don't like them already. That's all you needed. You don't need a moral reason. Stop conflating morality with taste. That's just silly. It's frankly immature, but that's the thesis statement of the entire conversation. But yeah, these people will often be more mad at me for associating with somebody than they will for the person in the first place, or the thing that they're mad about. I think about this, like, in particular, I remember there was like wasn't there like the puppet person? There was like a furry with a puppet, and people were mad at them for being a zoophile. And you're like, what? And it was because they said that somebody else is a good person, and that other person draws questionable art. And so people crush all of those nuances and steps into just person A is monster, and not, instead of person A likes person B and says they're a good person because of their personal experiences, but person B makes controversial art, and that controversial art is interpreted to be this fucked up moral transgression. So therefore, person A is this moral transgression. Boom. That's how Twitter works. You crush that person and that end conclusion into being the same thing. And it's like, that's not any of the things that happened or what anyone said. And you're just lying about people at that point to be mad at them. And you could have that long criticism of them, of all those steps, And maybe that's valid. But you can't just say that person A is that thing at the end of the chain of thoughts, because that's just not what that is. And it's like, yeah, like, and dealing with furries and queerness, there's so many steps of art where it's like, there's certain kinks and certain territories of art and so on that are like, we have not solved morality there. And we do not know exactly what is good and what is bad and so on. There is elements of like certain types of art are not ethical, but also depiction is not endorsement, and people depict and engage with certain things on a psychological level where they know that if the exact thing being depicted existed in real life, that would be bad. But a lot of adult content exists not for a literal representation or an endorsement, but as a psychological expression of a thing that can happen both as a way of processing trauma, but also just like all sorts of weird psychological things we don't know about sexuality. And it just is different. And we know that. And there's an uncomfortable gap between those two things that we have not resolved and don't know what to do with. So when it comes to controversial topics and people that I associate with and so on, there are some people who straight up just never did anything wrong and also didn't do anything controversial even, and it's just weird that some people interpreted things certain ways or whatnot, or they maybe had a bad tweet or something once. Then there's other people that make art, and that's like, and they make art controversially, and we haven't solved the morality of that art. And so it's debatable whether or not they did anything wrong with the art or not, and so on, and so on. It's very messy in general. So like in many cases, some of the people that people are mad at me for associating with are just like artists of visual novels, and it's like they'll be mad at the artist. Instead of being mad at the artist of the visual novel, and instead of being mad at the co-workers of the visual novel and all the other people that work on the visual novel, they'll be mad at me because I played the visual novel or I talked about the visual novel. And I'm like, what? I'm so many steps removed from that thing. Or it's like an artist I met once or something, and I'm like, I have met so many furries. You can just know my friends. It's like, what? But yeah, but I'm on a bit of a tangent here. But like I said, this reveals two things about people. One, that they care more about hating me than the actual act, because in many cases it becomes an excuse to focus on me specifically. But also reveals they don't know much about me, because like I do stream multiple days a week. I do very clearly have a friend group of people that I interact with all the time, and the people that people are mad at me for being with just aren't that list of people, which is a bit of a gap where it's like, where are you getting the idea that we're best friends or that I know them or that I hang out with them all the time? It's like you're imagining an entire relationship and a life that I don't have just because you want a reason to be mad at me. Because let's be honest here, we're still working our way back from here. You don't like a video essay I made years ago, and you maybe don't like it specifically because you used to like it, and now you're slightly older and you're like, no, I must kill it now. So you're like, I must kill a creator, and so the creator must be bad. So I must come up with reason for creator bad. So you're working all the way back to hating me over people you think you can loosely associate with me, but in a way where you don't use your energy to go after that person, and you also don't clearly care about the crime or the controversy or whatever happened, because you're going after me for the idea that I'm loosely connected to the person, which means you're telling on yourself that you just care about the excuse to hate me instead. That's weird. That's a weird thing to do. But no, it definitely has happened multiple times now. It's very frustrating. This culminated in a particular form where there was a time where I went into I had a retro spring, and on that retro spring there's one artist that I get fan art from regularly, and I actually more recently commissioned and stuff like that, and they had a past controversy, And so this person that was anonymously coming after me in the replies was like, I can't believe you associate with this person. Don't you know what they did? And I'm like, what did they even do? Why you guys, you're so aggro all the time, but you almost never even just say what you're mad about, because you just expect it to be like scorched earth and everyone knows what you're talking about, and no one knows what you're talking about. Why are you like this? But I look into this person's past, and their past is that they did like a growth drive once, and they did a bunch of work for it. They drew so much art for it, but they didn't fully finish it. Like maybe life got in the way or something, and they didn't fully commit to the end of the growth drive and didn't finish the thing. And so people are still mad at them because they donated the growth drive, and this person did make a lot of art for it, but didn't make all of the art for it. And that's the controversy, and from like 6 years ago, is an artist didn't maybe quite draw everything that you wanted them to draw for a thing that you put money into, maybe, although maybe the person, at this point, the people that are mad are probably not the same people that put the art into it. See how petty this shit gets? So I made a tweet, I'm like, please stop putting petty furry drama in my, please stop putting petty furry drama in my retrosping. I'm not going to react to it. I'm not going to answer those questions. That's not what I'm here for. I then went into a movie theater for a few hours. And I come out of the movie theater, and there are so many fucked up tweets coming at me with the moment I get back out into the internet and so on, like 2 or 3 hours later. Funny enough, I wanted to watch Citizen Kane, which makes me sound really pretentious. Like, I'm like, oh, I was just trying to watch the best movie of all time and educate myself, and people are doing petty furry drama. But it's genuinely true. Like, there's a movie club locally that meets once a month to watch classic cinema, and when I found out about them, I'm like, what's their schedule? And I found out, oh, they're doing Citizen Kane in a few months. I've never seen that movie. Let's watch that. And I had it marked on my calendar. I just happened to get embroiled in a furry drama right before I walked into the theater, and didn't know that until I came back out of the theater. Whoops. And what I saw through this whole controversy is a lot of people were really mad at me. A lot of them had the age 17 in their bio. That's just an interesting part of being on Twitter, is a bunch of people out themselves as minors while being on Twitter, and I'm like, you probably shouldn't have a Twitter account as a minor. That's just for aforementioned reasons. It's not about like being anti-minor. I'm like, that just seems like a bad idea for you to be out in the wild on a platform like that as a minor and identifying yourself as such, let alone engaging with the kinds of media we're talking about in this video. But that's a whole other topic that I've already kind of gone into. But everyone's so mad at me for calling sexual assault petty furry drama, and I'm like, what? And then a furry artist that contributes to some Echo Project games is also in my DMs like, hey buddy, are you okay? And I see like they responded to my petty furry drama tweet, and so they got roped into the drama too for agreeing with it. And so we just kind of like cope and bond a little bit. It was kind of nice actually talking to this artist for a bit, who I'm also avoiding naming. I'm avoiding naming anyone, which is dangerous because people will just fill these in the same way they did with the petty furry drama tweet, as we're getting into. They will just assume I'm talking about specific people, and it'll be whatever narrative they want it to be, and then they'll draw crazy conclusions, even though, once again, none of these people even fucking know me. None of these people know who Andrew is, a person I've made videos with for 14 years, which is probably the biggest conduit to canceling me. Like, it'd be so much easier just to look at stuff that Andrew said in the last 14 years and be like, wow, they all sincerely believe that to this day, and he wasn't just on a weird, incoherent rant, because that's how Andrew is, you know. But no, these people don't know who Andrew is because they don't know me, which is like how shallow the engagement is here, and so on. But yeah, I chat with this artist for a bit because we don't know what the fuck's going on. People are really mad at both of us. They're sending a lot of hate at us, and like, I'm doing fine now, but like, when a lot of people attack you online, you do genuinely feel under attack. Like, you kind of get a fight or flight response. You have a bit of a panic attack. It's really stressful. We are social creatures, and these kind of interactions fuck you up. Like, this is why it's only furthered my refusal to call out anyone publicly on social media, because you can't be like I talked about this with the James Somerton video last episode or whatever, if that is still the most recent video. with the H Bomber Guy thing, like H Bomber Guy calling out James Somerton was justified, but there's no way to control the audience reaction or the proportion and volume of the overall story that comes out of it. I don't want to call out anyone for over almost anything because it's almost never worth the potential response it'll get, and the act of the call out will often be a form of attack because it gives people excuse to be cruel, and the cruelty will often be disproportional to the original offense, which is often like, oh, this guy traced or something, this guy plagiarized, this guy was a dick once on the internet, this guy sucks, it just sucks, maybe he's homophobic or something, it just sucks. It's like, I don't like that the person sucks, but they have to do something pretty heinous to be worth it, to be worth sending a panic attack at them digitally, because a lot of these things that a lot of the call outs are just worse than the crimes that people usually are calling people out for. Usually. Obviously, because I'm being vague, you can cheat and insert the worst thing in this game of Mad Libs and be like, wow, I can't believe he likes Hitler. Sure. Enjoy being an asshole. So but we're talking because we don't know what the fuck's happening, but we're eventually able to come to the conclusion like, oh, okay, this one person who's elsewhere in the furry space was accused today of sexually assaulting someone. Okay. Why is it about me? It's like, oh, and it's like somebody connected the tweet that I made, which didn't talk about anyone, and just assumed that it was about that other thing and connected that spot. And so what they did is they screenshotted the tweet and then said it was about that situation. It's like, wow, I can't believe he called it petty furry drama. And then I just get dogpiled by like hundreds of people, it feels like. And just all social media is like unusable for the next few days. I just kind of step away. But it was upsetting. Like, it was a cruel thing to do to me, to frame me as being this like monster for some reason. It's like, why would you think that? Why would you think that that's what I mean? You have to be in a really shitty place to be even willing to think that about me for some reason. Like, you have to be so invested in hating me. And as it turns out, it was that person that I'd already blocked and wanted to get rid of. And yeah, if you search their Twitter feed, it's just them fucking bringing me up all the time for weeks and weeks and weeks, for months. And you're like, why is this person so fucking obsessed with me through a block? So they're not even being shown me on Twitter because I blocked them already, but they're still obsessed with me. The whole time that I blocked them, they just kept going on about me all the time. And it's like, that's the person who screenshotted my tweet and then added the context that wasn't context. It was just giving it a false context, and then mobilized this whole group of people at me. And you look through their feed and like, oh, they were continuously shit-talking me and trying to get me in trouble for months. This was the one thing where they just kept throwing it at the wall until it stuck. This is the one that finally stuck. It was a compelling enough narrative that this person, that I am a monster, and dismissed this assault that I didn't know existed, because we don't all have the same Twitter, obviously. I dismissed this assault because I'm defending my close friend who assaulted someone, and I'm like, no, every word you're saying is wrong. And that became the narrative. And so now, to this day, I am regularly brought up as being a defender of this particular situation, and it's like, that never happened. And people are like, oh yeah, what about this tweet? And it's like, the tweet doesn't say that. It just doesn't say that. I hate to break it to you, but there's a whole, whenever any controversy happens, there's a whole world happening around it, that the world just keeps spinning, and people just say random shit online. They complain about things. Other controversies happen. People have petty drama. The furry community always has several petty dramas happening at a time. It's called the furry wheel of drama for a reason, because it keeps spinning, and it's like the fucking Price is Right wheel or whatever. We rotate between the same 6 controversies every month. Pop hoods, poodling, conventions, digitigrade legs, different parts of anatomy and whether or not they're whether or not it's like not morally justified to draw and so on. It happens so much. We all know this. The world isn't about whatever current thing you're thinking about all the time. People tweet about other things. But it won't be enough. It's not enough to point out that I never said that about that person and that I didn't know about the thing and that there's no evidence that I ever said that about them. They'll just be like, no, that's what you meant. How dare you? And I'm like, why would I say that? Why would I ever say that? And the only justification that people can come up with is that I must be like best friends with that person. And I'm like, where's your evidence that we're best friends? Where? And I'll tell you where it is. People don't even actually have evidence, but if you want to come up with evidence for me, even the idea that I know this person on any real level, I streamed Overwatch with them one afternoon. That's it. I've streamed Overwatch with like 20 different people, and I have a like 250 episode series on Overwatch and like 100 episodes on Overwatch 2 or something. Like just hundreds and hundreds of hours of Overwatch playing, almost all of which is multiplayer because I hate playing it alone. And sometimes people bring a friend. In this case, yeah, I played Overwatch with a friend, and that friend brought another friend, and we just were cohabitants in an Overwatch group for a while that one day and hung out, and then never played Overwatch again or anything else again. They're not in my streamer group. They're not any large thing. Didn't know what was going on with them in their life or what controversies they went through. Just aren't that related to each other at the end of the day. And you would know that if you knew anything about me, because I stream all the time and you can just see who's on my streams. So it's like, it's just weird. It's just weird to bring it up all the time like it's a thing I did, and just refuse to talk to me or acknowledge what I did or what I say or any context that I add to the thing or what's going on. You're so dedicated to the idea that I did something wrong, and it's like, once again, I have to think like you're just working backwards from the starting point, which is, this guy made this video and I don't like the video now, and I'm mad at this guy for existing in fandom spaces now because I don't like his presence, and so I want excuses to be mad at him. And so it's like a lot of these people seem to be more mad about my hypothetical connection to a controversy than they are the original controversy or the person that actually is accused of doing the thing. That's really weird to do things that way. That's a really weird way to process anything. Just self-assess a little bit how you're dealing with these things, because that's weird. Thankfully, people have mostly moved to Blue Sky. Twitter sucks. In fact, there was a real filter between Twitter and Blue Sky where almost everyone kind of jumped ship to Blue Sky because of the fact that, in particular, there was like a final controversy that was big enough with Elon Musk being fucked up enough with the last election that a bunch of people finally did a really big jumping of ship when I was already on Blue Sky for a year, but I was cross-posting basically. But what happened is that we got a filter between the people who genuinely were ready to go to a better website and the people who really need the drama and they need the aggression and they need the conflict all the time. So the people who need the conflict and needed to fight, they made a Blue Sky account, but then they just went back to Twitter and went back to using that constantly because deep down they need that darkness and that conflict, and they miss it when it's not there, which is a character flaw. Like, that's just what Twitter does to you. These behaviors and these habits and like the ways that it's manifested as being like weird aggroness towards me and so on, and this like these non-conversations is a failure. Like, that's not a good thing for you to be personality wise. It's not good for your development. It's not good for your outlook on people, and it's really bad for like the sense of community amongst furries and so on. Like, it's bad for us essentially. It's making things worse for furries like across the board being on Twitter. So it's only better to jump ship and go to Blue Sky and other places and just move on from Twitter altogether. That entire mentality is just toxic and corrosive for everybody. But yeah, it's a lot of the worst people either stayed there or went right back there when they realized they weren't going to get that fix. It wasn't going to emotionally hit. They're addicted to Twitter, and the only way to get unaddicted to Twitter is really just to actually sign out of it on all platforms and delete it from your phone and not have it be that easy to keep going back to it all the time. There has to be enough barriers for it to be a pain in the ass to get to Twitter, because if it's on your phone, you're just going to keep getting sucked back into it, and it's going to get you again, and then well, here you go, another controversy for you to care too much about despite not really knowing anyone involved or what's going on. Because that's what really stuck out to me, is a lot of the people that have gotten mad at me in the furry fandom just cannot accurately reproduce who I am or what I've done. So increasingly, there are people who don't even know my work anymore. And it's like, okay, so you have no idea who I am, but you're weirdly invested in this long-term narrative of these offenses, all of which are just the idea that I'm tenuously connected to other people you're mad at. Because once again, it's never like a thing I've physically done. Like, I've never like abused someone or something. Like, not even the accusation, which I'm not encouraging people to fucking manifest things from scratch and start making shit up. But I'm like, the fact that like, even if you take everything I've ever done, if you take every single accusation and make them all true, it still is just me being adjacent to other people that did things wrong. And it's both, and once again, like the idea that the people did anything wrong is somewhat debatable because it's a lot of it's art arguments, and the idea that I know them is extremely debatable because these people don't know me, so they don't know who I know. And it's like, fucking Jesus Christ. So that's been exhausting. And it's unfortunate to be the lightning rod for so many people's character arcs. Like, that I'm the person that they're going to be messy at while they're figuring themselves out. And then as they mature and move on, other people potentially will just replace them and be in the same place in life because there's infinite young people and so on, and infinite messy people. That's just the fun, I guess. It's just like, it's just a huge mess. But this all leads to where we started the video, which is, if Adastra made you come out as gay, you're weak, or you're pathetic, or whatever the fuck. I don't remember the exact tweet. It's paraphrasing. I don't really want to know the exact tweet because then people would try to like research it and find it and then bother the person. Don't bother the person. But this was one of the last things I saw on Twitter back in the day, and it was hurtful. It's shitty to see going around, but what was very vindicating is that this is when the hate bubble kind of burst. It kind of like it made the mistake. It came out of the deep dark cave of like insular self-gratifying or like perpetuating hatred of this like sub community, this like bubble of people that like all keep repeating these same things in a loop over and over again and not having any outside criticism or perspective or even being checked if it's true. This tweet escaped its target audience and reached normal furries, like 30-year-olds and stuff, and got fucking eviscerated. And that was a nice day for me because I didn't share this tweet. I didn't complain about it. I didn't reply to it. I didn't interact with it in any way. I was just bummed out about it, but I just like had grown used to the fact that this is what's happening now, apparently, with my place in the community, is that people get to have, I'm somebody that people have takes about all the time, and here we go again. I was used to it at this point, but it sucks. It's cruel on so many levels. Because, like, one, why would you attack somebody over their coming out? Like, that's obviously cruel, right? Like, what's the mentality here? Like, attacking somebody for coming out in general is really fucked up because you are a queer person in a queer sub-community, the furries of all people, and you're attacking somebody for their coming out. I'm sorry, but maybe we need to gatekeep a little bit. Like, this is maybe somebody who doesn't belong in the furry fandom. If they're that off mark about how to be a furry, that they're going to attack somebody through the vector of queerness, for their queerness, and for their journey in their queerness. That It's kind of failing the furry test. That's, you probably should be in these spaces. That's when you've reached the point where your weird fixation on me has made you as cruel as the actual homophobic conservatives that attack people for their queerness. That's a fucked up vector on its own. But then there's the next thing, which is like the sad part, where it's like almost like my thesis, like one of my most central things of my content on my video essay channel is about talking about art that resonated with me so much that it emotionally broke me down and made me vulnerable and put me in a space where I could make positive changes in my life and reckon with the fact that this is my one life and it's ticking down right now and I'm wasting it by putting off being myself. That's queerness, that's coming out, that's pride. That's an important part of life for people to get through. That is the journey I'm sharing, and my art has repeatedly been that for other people. Like, these videos have led to people having that emotional arc of themselves and being able to be more comfortable with themselves and come out and so on, and actually make positive changes in their life, in part through the repeated resonance of me pointing out that they're wasting their life right now in this specific context, and that if they can make this change safely, they need to make it sooner than later, because they're just going to regret every day, month, and year that they put this off. My visual novel, Since November, is essentially about queer people at the end of the world, and the catharsis that people feel, certain people, because it's people have very different reactions to it as a piece of art, but some of these people specifically resonated with it on the level of like seeing these people living with regret, knowing that their life is over. Like, this is a story about their end and the regrets they have and what they thought, which they could have done differently. And being in that headspace has also led to some people realizing that they need to make certain changes in their own lives. Like, I've hit that note over and over again. So when you say, if you came out because of Adastra, you're weak, you're running counter to that entire thesis of my body of work, essentially. And to what end? To the purpose of saying, oh, what, you emotionally resonated with art enough that it led to you positively changing your life? Something's wrong with you. You're cringe. You're embarrassing. Why are you like that? And it's like, man, I just think about how, like, when Nimona came out, there's a part where Nimona and the protagonist are in a closet because they're in the middle of the big like castle heist or whatever, and she yells like, "If you stay in this closet, you're gonna it's like if you don't get moving, you're gonna die in this closet." And it's like, so many people sent me that clip because my stuff resonated with them, and they saw the connection between the subtext of that scene and my body of work, and it meant something to them, and they were saying to me, even though my content was like months or years old at that point to them. And it's like, that's the impact it had. Like, that's great. That's cool. That's people actually being in a better place and also understanding art and what it means to people and so on. So like, this kind of statement is counter to all that. It's like, no, don't emotionally resonate with art. Don't have sincere reactions to things. Don't build yourself. Don't improve yourself. Don't allow yourself to ever be vulnerable and sincere enough to be shaken by something where you then have to reassess what you're doing with yourself and make a hard choice for the better. And it's like, obviously this person didn't think through this at all, but it's because they refused to think that they said something that cruel and that misguided and that anti-queer. It's genuinely awful on every conceivable level. And this tweet, as I was saying, escaped containment, it escaped orbit, it reached normal people, so it got fucking eviscerated. Just, oh my god, this person got dumped on so hard for this tweet, and they immediately coped and wrote other dumb bullshit about people who are just like being mean to them, and they're just, what did I even do wrong? It's like, because people on Twitter, once again, never have conversations. Nothing has ever been fixed on Twitter. Nothing ever gets resolved. No controversy actually amounts to anything on Twitter. None of the stuff ever actually fixes anyone. And people that get called out don't ever really improve, really. And this is an example, because, like, no. They just immediately went on the defensive and thought everyone was being dumb for being mean to them. And it's like, you said something unbelievably cruel and deserve to be called out on it. They don't deserve harassment. I didn't call it out. I didn't call them out. I didn't, once again, same standard. People act like I'm a monster for not participating in various controversies, and then they act like I'm defending somebody for not calling them out. But I also don't call out the people that call me out, because that's also me using my platform to harass people. It happens every time. Which, by the way, these people are harassing me. In fact, this particular one case that happened, I mentioned before with the theater and the person that I had to DM with and chat with just to cope through it all. That was a harassment campaign directed at me. That's somebody using their platform to harass me. But because they're not a YouTuber or something, they're like, oh, I'm just a small bean. No, morality doesn't apply to me. And it's like, no, you used your platform for evil. You harassed somebody under false pretenses because you just have a hate boner for them. You are a bad person who uses your platform to hurt people. But no one ever questions that. It's like, because they want the red meat, they want the blood in the water and the excuse. So they don't ever question the fact that the person mobilizing it is themselves a bad person for the way they're using their platform, and they should be called out on some level, which I then won't do, because all call-outs, more or less, unless something monstrous is happening, the call-out is like always something that the call-out is almost always more harmful than the thing that people are usually mad about on Twitter. And also, I don't want to be known for call-outs, because then it's like, now I'm expected to do every call-out, and then the moment I don't do one, that's the one that I'm defending now. It's like that's a snake that eats itself. That's just a trap to become the one who's known for calling people out. But there was so many. It was so gratifying to, after being in this bubble of people being so cruel and fixated on me for so long, because I became an influencer of sorts in a community that is so interwoven and so full of controversies at all times, that it kept blowing back on me. Finally, just having this moment of like, just fresh air of just normal people seeing the thing happening and being like, no, we reject this. What the fuck are you talking about? You can't just say that about somebody. What is wrong with you? And having that sanity check was so gratifying, because normally it's just people just in a bubble being cruel, and they're doing this like high school gossip, and it doesn't get exposed to anybody else, so nobody else calls it out, so they just keep doing it because they don't have to ever like question their own behavior. And this was a rare case of that, and it was very satisfying to see that happen. Just fucked up thing to do. This is a very long, rambly thing, but I've thought about it for a while. I've thought about talking about it because I'm just like, one, I don't want to call anybody out and create any harassment for anybody. And two, some of the people involved may have matured by now. They're never going to apologize for being fucking psychos to me, and being so insecure about my art that they needed to have something be wrong with me. But they probably shut up at some point. At the very least, I very much stepped away from having any takes about most queer issues and most furry controversies in general, because just saying anything becomes another thing for people to like interpret in the worst way possible, and also like act like you're going to die on that hill, like it's your deeply held belief and not just you like engaging in a conversation that everyone's already having. And I just don't want to deal with that level of like misinterpretation people do on social media. It's like there's a cruelty there that I don't need to be exposing myself to. So nowadays I just have like media opinions and dumb thoughts. I also don't have a brand account anymore. I exclusively have an NSFW Blue Sky, where I'm just like engaging with NSFW furry as a community, and don't care about the idea of being a presentable brand and having a forward-facing safe for work thing, because I don't really want to be on social media like that in a way where I have to like worry about my like how I look to fucking peers as YouTubers or whatever. I don't want to be findable in that way. I just don't know. That version of social media is dead to me. I'm just hanging out with furries basically, and having a chill time there. But it's been very weird. It's been very weird being a public furry. It has been a larger and more beautiful and affirming experience than I ever imagined. And I am so thankful for all the people that have told me their stories. I can't respond to all of them, and I don't know what to say half the time. Like, people tell me their stories at conventions, and I give them a sticker and a hug and wish them well and hope they have a good convention, because I can't shoulder all of the emotional weight of people's journeys, even if I'm kind of like at the center of a lot of it sometimes. But I do appreciate knowing that people have gone through these journeys and so on, and that's cool. And I wish them well, sincerely. But the other side has been that I became somebody that people have to have takes about and opinions about, and that people discourse about. And as a very socially anxious person who does not respond well to rejection and people having negative opinions about me, do not process that well. Not great for my mental health. And some people using moments of vulnerability as chances to be cruel to me and to attack me and as ammo is not what I anticipated. I anticipated homophobes, and I can dismiss them because they don't matter to me. But the very community that I value and see as a place of safety, sometimes being the source of the hurt, is extremely harmful. And I just want people to listen a little more. And I'm hoping that maybe this reaches a few people that maybe think about how they talk about people a little bit more, and how combative they are with other furries at times. And this is not me being like, no politics in the furry fandom. Fuck no. There are weird psycho, like fucking the weird military furs that are like really conservative and like try to sneak in like the Confederate flag or weird Nazi shit. Fuck off. Like, there are lines, obviously. Like, you do not maintain a queer community by letting everyone in. That's the whole paradox of what's it called? Acceptance or whatever, is like, in order to make an accepting space, you need to be intolerant of certain people. You need to be intolerant of intolerance. There are people who are ideologically incompatible with the furry fandom. I just wish that more furries who are queer and are marginalized and are unwell would identify that some of their ideology of how they interact online is bad for the furry fandom and bad for what they value in it and self-destructive. And I can't be that for everybody. I can't fix that. But I can bring it up a little bit and share my weird, dumb story. Because, I don't know. People deserve more space to grow in general. And there's also ways of criticizing people without blacklisting them forever. Like, if you think that certain types of art are unethical, and yeah, I'm still being vague, because I know that there are certain types of art that are extremely unethical, and I agree, and other stuff that's like the fringe parts of furry that people disagree with and argue about. It's kind of like the pro-shipper, anti-shipper debate, where it's like, okay, well, there's a whole middle gray area here where no one can agree even what category it falls into, and that's been a mess with all romantic or lewd art of all forms across all fandoms. People being stuck in that debate isn't maybe the same thing as somebody being a monster, you know? It's just we need to reassess a lot of how we talk about things online. And I think that a lot of people know that, because the moment people turned to Blue Sky, they were like, okay, so none of that shit. We need to reassess. First of all, quote retweets, dead. Stop that shit. Stop quote retweeting somebody to dunk on them. Stop screenshotting people to talk shit about them. Like, all of these behaviors are emotionally satisfying in the moment, and they made Twitter the worst website ever. And immediately so many people changed their behaviors. And I hate to break it to you, if you've been making the mistake of doing that on Blue Sky, even if it makes you feel really cool in the moment in that Twitter sort of way, a lot of people are blocking you immediately without telling you, because you're breaking one of the rules of that site that a lot of people did agree on, and they do not want you around. Like, you are doing a form of behavior that has a form of toxicity to it, that is a pattern that people do not want to deal with. And this is there's definitely an extremeness to that. Like, there's definitely an element of like an idea where for some people that'll be an excuse to shut out all things, including genuinely bad things that are happening that should be given attention to. That will rubber band on some level, I'm sure. And there are downsides to some of that approach. But as a palate cleanser to Twitter, a lot of people are correct to be responding that way, because Twitter just got really shitty. And in many ways, the way that the furry community on Twitter formed became antithetical to the core concept of what furries ideologically are. And so people do need a bit of a reset and some retraining there. And we're working on that, and we'll see how that goes. And there will always be growing pains and mistakes made there, and people going too far the other direction and so on. But holy shit. I've been in rooms full of visual novel creators, and I've been in rooms full of furry, like, YouTubers and other people like that. And a lot of people, everyone just agrees, like, oh, it's unacceptable. Like, it's not, this is not unique to me. It's not weird mistakes that just I made, especially since I'm pretty quiet on social media, because I already kind of had most of this learning arc before I became a furry anyway. But everyone's like, it can't keep going like this. Like, this is, people are, one of the most regular things that furries say in these spaces is that they're like, oh my God, I'm so happy I came to this convention, because I almost forgot what furries are like and why I like being a furry, because online Twitter furries are so fucked up. And then you go to a furry convention, you're like, oh, right, that's not what furries are. This is what furries are. And this is great. Shit. I need to stop using Twitter. And many of the people who are in that pit are teenagers that have never been to a furry convention, and in many ways don't know the history of furry. So they're not respecting the lineage and the context, the cultural context to what they're interacting with. And they're trying to apply like a bunch of shipper morality to art, and then using their immature idea of art being solved to then attack people. And that spirals. And because we can't tell how old anyone is, or what their level of exposure is, or what their context is, everyone has the same playing field, and Twitter just rewards the loudest and cruelest thoughts most of the time. And it leads to a situation where people share it. Because this is one of the fucked up lessons to take from this whole scenario, is that even if you don't like me, and even if you think I'm full of shit, or I'm in the wrong or whatever, which fine, that thought that I shared, that person tweeted, that was fucked up. That was a fucked up thought to have on its own. Those words in that order are bad. But the only reason it escaped containment and reached the regular furries that then were like, wait, what? How could you say that? Is because a bunch of people supported it within that person's sub-community and that circle. That person's mutuals and so on, who were also furries, because they know what Adastra is, shared that anti-queer sentiment enthusiastically to their followers. You need a few dozen people making the mistake of sharing this thing and thinking it's a good thought to co-sign, to then have it spread outward to other people and then get the massive backlash of like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And that's fucked up. That sub-community of people, whoever the fuck they are, needs to think a bit about how they interact with stuff. And maybe they won't. I don't expect them to see this, but even if they would, I don't expect them to sit through 100 minutes of me talking when they've already decided they hated me and so on. But it's like that, poof, that specifically, more than anything, that specific part, that is not furry. That's unacceptable. That is not what this community is that the sharing of that sentiment in the first place by posting it, and the co-signing of it by dozens of people, that cannot be allowed. That specific expression is so anti-queer, anti-furry, and cruel that is antithetical to the entire space. So just think about that a little bit. And maybe, if we rewind all the way back to the beginning, maybe just let yourself be a bit embarrassed by a thing that you liked when you were 16. And that's it. I loved Nickelback.